Hello, welcome to my fourth video post. I think it's going to be a little different this time. I know that the previous posts were really a bit too long, probably rather stultifying in fact. Stultifying is a word I like. So I'm going to keep things quite short and pithy. This time there's another word I like, pithy. Not a word in common usage these days. Anyway, reading matter at the moment. I'm reading a biography of Lenin, which is good. It's not product placement actually. I'm a bibliophile. I try to read at least a book a week, possibly more. Something like this I could probably read in 3 days if I had the time in between work and life in general, but as I don't, this sort of thing takes me about a week now. Finished A Song of Ice and Fire last week. That's the multi-volume series of books on which the television series Game of Thrones is based. The first 4 books are very good. Unfortunately, the last book in the series, although it doesn't conclude the series like the television series does, wasn't the best. I think it took Martin 6 years to write, and that stands to reason. Unfortunately, while I was reading it, I felt as though it was taking me 6 years to read. But you know, when one is under pressure from a publisher, these things happen. Anyway, that's a recap of what I'm doing at the moment. I'm not going to read any poems to you today. I thought I'd leave that for next time. Brief recap of the news. I noticed on Friday morning that Britain's second worst Prime Minister, David Cameron, has been appointed to the board of an artificial intelligence company. Well, that stands to reason. I only hope that a man of subnormal intelligence can be assisted to be brought up to the level of average intelligence by an artificial intelligence company. It's really the only way that David Cameron's going to manage. I also noticed that in the Conservative Party leadership contest, which is now running to something like 12 or 13 candidates, that Boris Johnson was endorsed by none other than the Donald. And that tells you everything you need to know. Once you need to rely upon endorsements from that shithead, you know you're in trouble. Donald, you're a cretin. You're an obnoxious, boorish cretin. You are the worst that America has to offer. Your predecessor, Barack Obama, was the best America had to offer. You are the worst. And Boris Johnson, if I had any decency whatsoever, if I had any honor whatsoever, if I were you, I would tell Donald Trump, thanks mate, but no endorsements from you. Anyway, Donald Trump's on well, he begins a state visit to the UK today. He's going to be a member of the supporting cast. Although he wants to be centre stage, but he's going to be a member of the supporting cast in the pageantry that the British are so good at putting on. You know, the British aren't any good at anything else anymore, but they can put on a damn good show with soldiers in uniforms that should have been put aside centuries ago, and unelected heads of state that should be replaced by an elected head of state, and all of the other hangers-on in this moribund state which no longer functions thanks to Theresa May and the Conservative Party. So, carriage rides, gun salutes in various places around London, the Royal Parks and the Tower of London, Probably a carriage. No, not a carriage ride. It's probably not safe for him. Somebody might take a pot shot at him. Carriage ride through... no, sorry, not a carriage ride through the street of London. A formal welcome in the grounds of Buckingham Palace, I believe. There's the substance of politics and statecraft for you, which the British are so very good at nowadays. So, enjoy your state visit, Mr. President. I'm sure the Queen feels such great pleasure and joy at hosting you. And I'm sure wherever you go in the UK, I understand you're going to Portsmouth to see the glory of the Royal Navy as well. Wherever you visit in the UK, I wish you well. I'm sure you're going to have a most hearty and tumultuous welcome. Shithead. Anyway, the Conservative Party leadership contest, it's hotting up. As I mentioned the other day about the head of state, should be elected, should be dismissible by the people. It comes down to a very fundamental concept. Where does sovereignty lie? Is it with the state or is it with the people? Is it with Parliament? Is it with the people? Legally and constitutionally, in the British system, sovereignty lies with Parliament. This rather odd institution, only a third of which is elected, the House of Commons, the House of Lords, a group of unelected, appointed has-beens, and the monarch, the bearer of the crown, an unelected nonagenarian, and her family and various hangers-on. Sovereignty lies with the people. It has to lie with the people. It's very simple. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. Lenin was a tyrant, a dictator, a monster. Not as bad as Stalin, of course, but they did understand that sovereignty lies with the people, not with an autocrat, not with Parliament, not with an unelected monarch. And even though they applied this system risible, they understood it. So sovereignty lies with the people. So Brexit, Parliament abdicated its responsibility, gave the people the choice to make this decision. Should we remain a member of the European Union, or should we withdraw? The people made the decision. The only duty of Parliament now is to implement the decision, which they can't do. So they are holding the sovereignty of the people in contempt. It's clear, therefore, that in the United Kingdom the people are not sovereign. It is Parliament and the state that remain sovereign. Of course, legally, constitutionally, that's the case, but they are ignoring the overriding principle that, in practice, it's the people who are sovereign. Implement Brexit. Leave or remain. It doesn't matter on which side of the argument you reside. Parliament gave people the choice. Unfortunately, for everyone who wants to remain, the majority voted to leave. In a parliamentary democracy, in a democracy where sovereignty belongs to the people make the choice. Same goes for the head of state. The same should apply to the head of government. The Conservative Party is going to elect its new leader, which by default, whoever that may be, from the field of 12 or 13 candidates, will by default become Prime Minister, because the Queen has no discretion in this matter. She must appoint a person who is able to command a majority in the House of Commons. But this in itself is another travesty of democracy, another denial of the sovereignty of the people. The people should elect their head of state, independent of party, and the head of government. Okay, probably not independent of party in a parliamentary system, but the people en masse should have some sort of role in electing the head of government. Because it's quite clear that the Conservative Party, if there were an election tomorrow, would be routed, would be annihilated. Therefore, they have no right, no legitimacy, no position to demand that the small number of cretinous Conservative MPs and then the 125,000 or so members of the wider Conservative Party have a right to elect the Prime Minister. Sovereignty belongs to the people. The people should choose, not the busted flush of the Conservative Party. Last point I want to make, who would I vote for if I were a member of the Conservative Party and I had a vote in this rather risible election? Obviously, not Boris Johnson, as I said the other day. That's like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire. I'd vote for Rory Stewart. Very simple choice. An honourable man, has experience of administration. He doesn't seem to be an egotist like all of the others in the field who seem to think that they are, like Theresa May, have been perennially over-promoted and delude themselves as to their abilities and skills and their entitlement to the position of Prime Minister. Rory Stewart seems, from what I know of him, from what I know of his background, his position on various issues, his role as a minister, as an MP, he seems like the, not the ideal, but is there an ideal candidate for the role of Prime Minister? I don't think there is, and I don't think we'll ever be able to find one. But from the list of candidates, he, more than any of the others, would be my choice. He would choose the honourable, right and just course over his ego, over political expediency, over the most recent opinion poll, over tomorrow's tabloid headlines, or cretinous comment on Twitter. So, if Conservative MPs have any common sense whatsoever, and unfortunately I don't think they have more than an iota between them, and the broader Conservative Party membership have any common sense left, and again I doubt that, they should vote for the honourable choice, Rory Stewart. My fingers, toes, legs and arms are crossed that Rory Stewart will be the ultimate choice. Unfortunately, I think the odds are against him, but like Pandora's box, we can live in hope. That's all for now. I'll see you next time. Peace out.